snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is King of Thorns, which is the second one in the Broken Empire series by Mark Lawrence. So let's get started. I didn't plan on reading this book this month, I just had a sudden urge to pick this up because I really want to finish up the series and read more of Mark Lawrence's stuff in the future because I really enjoy his writing. But yeah, this book was really fun and I would definitely recommend it, so let's get into what it's all about. In this book we are once again following our main character of Jorg, who is basically the son of the king, but he decided to run away from the king. He really had a bad relationship with his father, which has influenced his life and the way that he acts. He's not a very nice guy. In the first book he definitely went around on a kind of rampage, killing nearly everyone who got in his way, and everything was rather brutal and disturbing. And whilst in this book he does continue that theme in places, he definitely grows as a character over the course of this book and he becomes a really interesting character. We get to see some really great additions to the magic, we get to see much more of the outline of the plot and how everything is slowly coming together, which I really enjoyed. And generally I just thought that this book was definitely a step up from Prince of Thorns, and I really enjoyed this. Admittedly, when I went into this book, because it had been like 6 months since I read Prince of Thorns, I didn't remember a whole lot of it, but it was really easy to get back into and enjoy once again. And I didn't have a problem with the pacing or anything like that. I was instantly back in the story and enjoying the characters again. There were also definitely some scenes within this book that I know will stay with me for their sheer brutality, because my goodness, some of these scenes have really made me well up and get a little teary-eyed, so definitely worth reading. In this story, as well as following Jorg in the present day, we are also given glimpses of his past life. We get to see the plotline of today, which is basically he is under siege from the Prince of the Arrow, who is destined to become the Emperor, apparently. And he is under siege. He has to try and escape the castle and drive back the forces of the Prince of the Arrow. So that is the modern day, present day plotline that we are following. And then equally we have the other plotline, which is filling in the past from the end of book 1 up to this point of book number 2. And I really enjoyed that kind of parallel that we're seeing, because both plotlines obviously follow our main character Jorg, and it is told in first person, which I actually really enjoy because you get to see a lot about what he's thinking and why he plans on doing things. Even though a lot of his plans are not revealed until the moment that they happen, I still think that we get to know so much of his personality, and it really becomes clear who he is as a person and why he does the things that he does a lot more in this book than it was in book number 1. He certainly feels like he's growing up as a character, because I believe he's like 19 in this book, and that's definitely a massive step up from, I think, the 16 or 15-year-old that he is in the previous book, which is really young. And so now he's definitely faced trials in the time between the last book and the present day siege. He's definitely grown as a character, he's definitely progressed. He's been through a lot of hardships with his brothers, and when I say his brothers, he basically has kind of a travelling band of people who go around with him and who support him and who are very ruthless and reckless, a lot of them. A lot of them are criminals or bad people that he's picked up along the way, but they are really enjoyable to read about. This is not an easy read. It's not a light-hearted fun read by any means. It's definitely dark, it's definitely brutal, it's definitely a grim, dark read. But I have been really getting into grimdark, particularly recently, and I absolutely love the way that this is written, because Mark Lawrence has a brilliant and very distinctive writing style. His writing, although very brutal in places and definitely recounting some gory scenes in places, is stunning. He has an excellent way with words. His prose is really brilliant. And there are scenes which are very brutal or nasty, but are described so well that it just is amazing. At times we do also see a mini third plotline, which is the diary of Jorg's aunt, who is called Catherine. And from this we get to see flashes of what has been happening to her, and she also shows us glimpses of the other kingdoms and the other princes, because she is in a different place to Jorg at most of the time. So it's an interesting way of glimpsing other things that are happening in the world from her perspective, so I like that. I did find it difficult to connect with Catherine. I felt like she was quite nasty to our main character, who kind of deserves it because he's horrible at times, but equally she doesn't really understand everything about him, and therefore she has her own kind of warped opinions of him, and I didn't really enjoy her character to begin with. But I felt like over the course of this book, her character definitely took a more interesting role, and by the end of the book I was finding her diary pages really interesting and highly informative, and definitely a progression of the plotline, which I really liked. So although I didn't instantly connect with her by the ending of this book, I thought she was really interesting, and there's definitely potential for her to become a really interesting character in the next one. I don't know if she will or not, but I'm definitely interested to see. So I definitely didn't have a favourite over the past or present plot lines of Jorg. I thought they were both really, really well done. The past plotline definitely shows us a lot more about how Jorg was brought up. It shows us a lot more about what he's been doing and how he has changed his thinking, and the things that he's been doing and been forced to go through in order to get to where he now is, which is definitely a different place from where he was at the ending of book 1. And I really enjoyed seeing that progression, seeing all of the events that shaped that and made him into this slightly more rational thinker. He's still a little bit psychotic, he's still quite crazy, and he definitely is no kinder to his enemies. His enemies still get his full wrath, but he's not horrible to everyone anymore. He is only horrible to those who deserve it, and very horrible to them. Generally, I just think he's a really, really interesting character. I do love reading about kind of the anti-hero sometimes. I think he is a great antagonist at times, and just generally he's really entertaining. So I would highly recommend this series and this book, and I do want to find out what is going to happen to him in the next book, because the ending of this was really, really exciting. In terms of the present day plotline, it's a really action-packed plotline, and we get to see how his thinking has changed and how he's started to really think about plans and formulate great plans to save his people, and that really is a concern of his now. He wants to save his people, he knows that they've been loyal to him, and it's definitely something he's aiming to do over the course of this book, which I really, really loved seeing. Definitely there was more action in the present day plotline, and it was more about the events over the course of the siege, but generally I thought they were both excellently done, and I really enjoyed them both. I do think that the first person really, really helps this book, because although Jorg is a really twisted, kind of dark character, and he's got some ghosts in his past, he doesn't just rely on that, and there are moments where he is a redeemable character. Especially in this book, he does have more moments of being redeemable and just being a nice character who cares and shows that he cares, a lot more in this book than in the first. And Mark Lawrence explaining through Jorg kind of how you kick a severed head around and why he's doing that and what he thinks about it was just great. Like, one of the scenes in this book is where Jorg is kicking around a severed head, and he's explaining about severed heads in a very detached way, and it just shows the brutality and the calmness he has about him as a character, and shows how dark he is and how twisted his story is and his life is to get him to this point where he can clearly talk about a severed head and kick it around at the same time and not even be fazed. So that scene was definitely one that will stick with me. There was also another scene that I'm sure you guys will know if you've read this, with a dog. That was brutal, very, very brutal. But generally, I just thought this book was so well written. The prose is excellent, the writing is excellent, and I really, really enjoy it. My only slight confusion with the series so far is the magic, because there is a lot of magic that does come up in this series, and we haven't had it fully explained to us yet. We definitely get glimpses of things that can happen, and it's really epic. It's used for some really exciting and great scenes. We have some really interesting battles which involve magic, and we have some really interesting moments that definitely involve a large amount of magic. We have kind of necromancy, and we've got fire magic, and we've got all sorts of things going on, but we don't really understand how it works or anything like that completely, which isn't really a problem. I do prefer to know how magic works, or at least have some idea. But I think that the magic in this world, although I don't understand all of it, is really, really exciting and interesting and can be used in some really great ways. So that's certainly something I hope we see a lot more of in book number 3, because ghosts and necromancers and conjurations and fire and so much more is going on, and it's really, really enjoyable to see. There are some definite dark, twisted kind of rivals who use magic, and that definitely adds a whole new dynamic to the book, because when you're fighting with magic, you have to strike back with magic. On the whole, once again, this story was highly entertaining. The character grew a lot over the course of this book. We got to see some really exciting and very, very brutal events, which definitely shaped our main character, and I felt like this was a step up for sure from book number 1, so I will definitely be continuing on with this series. And I really love the writing, so everything is pretty good. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 because I really, really loved it. I thought it was definitely a great step up from book number 1, and I do want to find out what is going to happen to Jorg. Let me know your thoughts on the series. If you've read it, definitely tell me your thoughts and whether you liked it or disliked it. I know some people really can't get into Mark Lawrence's work, and other people seem to absolutely love it, like I do. So do let me know your thoughts, and I would love to talk to you guys in the comments. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.